Hello, it's Maria Burke here with you today. Thank you for joining me again in my little attic where I've set up a studio to work in. And today I'm going to be talking about glazing. So you're probably wondering, why would you ever need to glaze a painting? Well, it's just something that's very, very useful. Especially for a painting maybe you've been working on for a while and it's just not turning out the way you want it to, it's not going perfectly well, maybe you have overworked it and it's gone a bit dark and messy, so a glaze is a very good way of bringing it back to life. Now, before I talk about this painting, over the last few days I have been working on two other pieces. And so this is one I started with, which would be very like the type of work I've done in the past. So really it's a very simple type of painting to do for anybody who's a beginner, because it really, everything kind of just blends into the sky. So the subject matter is very simple. You're just looking at the foliage and the wildflowers, and they're all over the place at the moment. So it's so easy to go out there with your camera. All you have to do is go out to your garden, and you'll find, wildflowers to me are just daisies, dandelions, all of these. I call them flowers, other people call them weeds, but they are brilliant subject matter, and they make this really interesting tangle when you look at what's underneath them and what's all around them. So they're great subject matter to paint, and the flowers are just everywhere at the moment. And this one, the reason I'm showing it to you, it's not finished, but it's got good colour. And I'm hoping that as I keep working on this picture, that the colour will, that I'll keep that colour and even make it more colourful and vibrant. And what I want to do is to bring exactly these colours into this picture, something on this line, enliven this picture up and bring the colour into it. So this painting, it started as a more of a traditional landscape, and you can probably see the remains. There's the shape of some mountains in the distance, and there was a lot of wildflowers and foliage coming out this side of the painting, grasses growing on the roadside, and there was some trees in the background on both sides. And as I worked on it, it was just, the composition was difficult to work out. So I just did away with a lot of the subject matter, and I put away the photograph because the photograph was really bothering me. And at this stage I had learned what was in the photograph anyway. I understood what the flowers looked like. I have been looking at them for the last few days. So I decided I'd get intuitive and do my own interpretation of what I had been looking at. So I came up with this tangled mess, and you know, that actually is a very, very good place to start, because there's a lot of freedom. When I was working with the photograph, everything had become very stiff and dead, whereas now I was free with my brushes just to be creative and to create all these shapes. So, but the only thing is, because there was so much paint and I had been working on it for a few days, that it had become messy and muddy. My blues aren't true blues. All this here should be very pale yellows, and it's got a bit muddy. So today what I want to do is I want to glaze it. And a glaze is just a very simple matter of using, if you're painting in acrylics, just mixing some acrylic paint. Pick a colour that you like, that you think is going to help this painting, and usually a dark colour is the best, and you bring it back to the darkness, and then you can add in your lights again. You can build up the lights afterwards. So it's just a matter, it's a wash basically. That's another name for a glaze, a wash of colour. And you might put a different colours on different parts. You might put different glazes on different parts depending on what you're doing. And if you're using oils, you can just simply, what I'm going to use is a mixture of oil paint and white spirit. Now you can use other mediums, but I just find it faster to use the white spirit. It dries a lot more quickly. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. A glaze, it just helps revive something that's lost its colour. It helps revise a composition that's going all over the place, and it unites the picture again and brings back your depth and your darks, and it just unifies the painting. so you can get working on it again. And it's just puts any colour that's got dark or muddy, it'll bring back the vibrancy into that colour, and then you can build up over it again. And painting is all about building layers over layers. If a painting goes wrong, it's just so easy by using a glaze to, rather than just blotting the whole thing out and starting again, you can put the glaze over it, and then you don't have to go back to the beginning. You can bring out what you want to bring out of the painting, what you loved in it. So let's get started. So I'm just about to glaze this painting. I'm preparing my palette, and if you just look there, you can just see it, the purple. I'm mixing the purple there on my palette. So I'm mixing a shade of purple, which is a mixture of a rose colour and a dark blue. And I have mixed that with white spirits, and that's just watered it down. It's watered down my oil paint, and I'm painting the oil paint then over this dried painting that I had I left this painting dry overnight, and it was mostly dry, and I tried to just scrape off anything that was still wet and dry it out as much as I could. You really need to have the painting fully dry before you glaze it. Now there are a few places here and there, you'll see as I go on, where I discovered that the painting was still, there was still some wet patches. It's always the white paint that is the last to dry. So I had a few patches of white paint that blurred a little, but I just mopped that off with some kitchen towel, and it was fine. It didn't cause too much trouble. So, but really the right thing to do would be to let the painting dry for a few days, and then you can clean it off and glaze over it. So what's the point in glazing? The point in glazing is that I had worked on this picture for quite some time, and there was a build-up of paint, and because the paint was wet, the colour I began to lose colour, and it was turning into this kind of pale bluey grey, kind of a muddy grey, if you can understand what I mean. And I wanted to bring back some vibrancy. Particularly, I wanted to bring these orange colours that I'm bringing in now. So I've moved from glazing with the sort of purple colour down at the bottom, and now I'm using orange. So I've mixed some orange paint with white spirits, and I am painting areas of the painting with this orange. Now I'm not painting anything new, I'm just going over what I've already painted, and it's like I'm putting a wash. You can see I'm just washing it across the canvas. And in places I'm washing it over broad areas, and then in other places I'm putting it into specific areas. So I'm not adding anything new, I'm not painting any new lines or new subject matter. I'm just colouring, really changing the colour and putting another layer of colour. You can see just adding these layers of colours onto what was actually there before. And that's what a glaze is. It just allows you to change the colour, brighten up the colour of what was there. And as well, it just brings that vibrancy. Every layer you put on a painting adds to it and develops it. So it's giving me more depth of colour, and as well it's pulling the painting together, uniting the painting. So what I'm doing is I'm putting a paler shades of orange higher up in the painting, and in the bottom of the painting I was putting that sort of deeper purpley red lower down. And I'm painting over kind of there was some sort of greeny blue kind of stems of this greenery, and I was washing over those as well in the orange. Now you can see this little bit was white paint and I didn't realise it was there, and when I put the glaze over it, it ran a bit, so I just blotted it out and I'm glazing. Now that it's dry, I blotted it out with the just ordinary white kitchen paper, and now I'm able to work over it again. So it's just a process where I can keep working on my painting. Adding more and more colour. And if you can see from the very beginning of when I started to glaze this piece, it was much more bluey green, and if you look at the very end of the painting, of this section of the painting, you will see it's the colours have brightened up and they're much more orange. So I'm putting lighter colours up on top. And I'm not going to glaze over the sky because I don't want to darken the sky. I want to leave it the colour it is. So I'm only going to glaze over the areas that I want to enliven and add colour to. So it's a very, very simple way of reviving a painting and bringing it back to life. And it saves me repainting or painting something new. I'm just working on what already was there, but enhancing the colour of it. So this painting, if you look at the two paintings that the two videos that I've done before this, the two tutorials, one is on the purple flower garden and the other one is on the sunset garden. If you look at those, you'll see how I came up with this actual design. This is very similar. The groundwork for this painting, or what led up to this glaze, is very similar to the previous two paintings. So if you look at those, you'll see how I got to this stage. And this video is simply, I'm just showing you how to glaze. And in the next tutorial, I will show you the next part of this painting, which was where I began to add more detail. I began to add the flowers, I began to add trees in. So this is kind of really a more developed underpainting. And on top of this painting, I'm going to add more dimension. So I hope you can understand what I'm trying to explain. I'll go over this in more videos in the future if you want to understand glazing more. It's just really, really good process. You can use other mediums other than white spirit. You could add in some varnish into it, and that would give it a sheen, a much more vibrancy, much lighter sheen. Or you could add linseed oil. There's various other things, but white spirit is fine for me. Because it's just the start of a painting. I don't want to bring up the sheen on it too much. So I hope you enjoyed this today. I hope you find it useful and that it gives you just the knowledge that you need to glaze something. So thank you for joining me. It's great to have you with me. Please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, because I'll be bringing them out, as you know. And you'll get notified and you'll know when they're coming out. So it's great to have the subscribers, and I really want to thank everybody who has subscribed and liked and shared these paintings. It really is lovely to get the support. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll talk to you soon, and God bless. Bye bye. Have a great day.